everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Bottom Line. I'm your host, Lauren Kalil. Our show is brought to you by UCAN. On today's episode, we have Jason Croxon, the man behind Jason CF Media, here with me to discuss another update with the European Championship as athletes, media, judges, they all still wait to get paid. Jason, you have a much nicer voice than me, even when my voice is not gone. So I'm going to let you mostly dive into that, and we're going to kind of unpeel some of the layers. But this scenario, it just keeps getting more interesting. The European Championship, it ultimately didn't sell enough tickets, and therefore they haven't been able to pay the podium athletes or anybody that worked at the competition. Now they want to pay the athletes and everyone by moving forward with the 2023 event that they may get paid for. Can you kind of break down exactly what's happening? What were the emails saying? And some athletes that you even spoke with?
Yeah, I mean, well, considering you've got no voice, well summarized. But that's yeah, that's pretty much it. So I actually didn't pay much attention to the event itself when it happened. I unfortunately that weekend I was incredibly ill, like during those periods of weeks, couldn't drive, couldn't work, couldn't do anything. So I actually missed it. And then somebody messaged me saying, "Oh, you're going to talk about what's happened." I was like, "Okay, what's happened?" And that's when I first heard podium athletes hadn't been paid. And that's what we heard initially was that podium
Mhm.
athletes hadn't been paid. And I spoke to some of them. And then it came out that actually also, it's one of the few events that commendably pays judges and has in the past and had offered to pay judges. This time, none of the judges were paid. And then the media team, so I spoke to some of them, and some of them hadn't been paid. Uh, there's a little bit of a strange situation with some of the MCs, but that's it's another story. Um, but basically, yes, they didn't they didn't sell enough tickets, which on the one hand you could reason, well, yeah, that's the breaks. You didn't sell enough tickets. It was incredibly ambitious, like a 10,000 seat venue. I mean, and we've seen at semi-final level events, and the talk has been, we're not getting people in to watch live competition when we've got the top athletes in the country or the region that they're competing in, and if that's not selling out a venue, why did we think this would sell out a venue? I mean, there was another competition going on in the UK at the same time, the same weekend. So already you're splitting the UK CrossFit community, across two different competitions, probably more small local throwdowns as well. So in digging into this, I also found out that it wasn't the first time podium athletes weren't paid what they'd been promised. So this seems that it was already kind of a let's go bigger to make sure we don't get in the situation we were in last year where we cut the prize purse. Anyway, they were told they were going to be updated periodically and kept in the loop to the point that maybe they were going to sell the European Championships if someone
Mhm.
wanted to buy it. And there was an email that went out about that. I didn't speak about that just because I didn't want to be, I didn't want to risk, messing up a sale and then people not getting the money owed. The last email that went out to the athletes was this proposition of, look, we couldn't sell it. So what we plan to do is a bigger competition next year. I mean, the potential prize purse this year was £40,000. The one they're talking about for next year, if they sell out the venue, is £100,000. It's more than
So they
double.
have to make up all of that money.
So you've got to make up. So in this dream scenario that you sell out the event, you're talking about having enough money, and obviously from sponsors, which I don't know if you're going to get any sponsors behind you after all the bad press that's gone on so far,
Sure.
but and online, registrations. You've got to make up enough money to pay £100,000 prize purse that you're promising this year, the 40,000 prize purse from the previous year, to cover the money of the judges of last year. Are you going to offer to pay judges and volunteers this year? I don't know. Plus, in the email, it talks of a repayment structure set up with the venue. So they haven't even paid the venue from last year. And when I spoke to some people that rent venues that know a little bit more about this than I do, and just an estimate, you're looking between 20 to 40,000 that they probably still owe the venue, and then they'd have to rent the venue again. And again, speaking to some people, and this I can't say is a fact, and obviously I'm not speaking to them. Carl is, maybe he's
Sure.
negotiated something, but I was under the impression the venue wouldn't want them back anyway. So I don't know, but I don't know. That is just pure. I'm not going to say speculation on my part. It was somebody that told me that, but I don't know how reliable a source I can
Okay.
say it. And
So that's already out
things
there.
could have changed, but this was sort of this was the shocking thing about the email. There was a lot in this email that I was like, well, from what I'm hearing, from what I'm seeing, like this seems kind of impossible. And I made a video on that. Some people saw
Mhm.
that, which was nice. But then you guys put out an article on it. And at that point, like the floodgates opened on how people felt about this. And,
Yeah.
some people,
Social media went berserk.
yeah.
I
And,
think it was this one.
I know somebody sent me a message saying kind of like some people went maybe like a little bit extreme in their comments and a little bit too the nature of social media. But like I'd never seen so unanimously people kind of in agreement that something was a bad idea. Usually, there's always some people that are kind of defending it, but it just across the board, people didn't see this as a good idea. It's not something that should happen. It wouldn't work. Okay, whatever the case may be. So it was ironic that the very next day, an email went out to the crew, the judges, and some of the workforce, saying that the response had been really positive and that they were going to go ahead with this plan. Well, probably going to go ahead. They haven't said 100%, but the email said it
Because it
looks like we're going
wasn't
ahead.
right, because it wasn't clear in the original email what percentage or how many athletes needed to be on board. They just used the verbiage like majority or most or
Yeah.
something like that.
So I haven't spoken to all the podium athletes because there were obviously all the masters categories. So
Mhm.
and I'm assuming maybe they are the athletes that have said, yeah, let's go again. And obviously they've got a much smaller stake in the matter, prize money wise, than the athletes that finished on the kind of the elite podium, of which I've spoken to at least half that are not in agreement. So just looking at that podium, at least half of them, no way. Some had already sent their reply, others hadn't yet told Carl their response. So again, it's not that I'm not saying that he's lying in what he's saying, but to me, I'm not counting my chickens before they've hatched. Like it's kind
Sure,
of,
sure.
if I know I'm still waiting to hear from a number of athletes, and particularly maybe the higher, I don't want to say higher profile, but like the bigger percentage of the prize purse, I'd kind of want to have heard back from maybe all of them before I would put something out saying, yeah, we're going ahead with this.
So the
Um,
competition is saying that most of the athletes are in agreement with this. We're gonna move forward with the 2023 event that will hopefully pay the athletes back from this year and in addition to next year. But the interesting thing to me is the way that they're structuring the payback. It's still based on the amount of seats that they sell at the event. This is something that we've been talking about really with any off-season competition. Like, should event organizers be relying on ticket sales to pay the athletes?
yeah,
This episode is brought to you by UCAN. Who can? You can. At least I can with UCAN with one of their easy squeeze pouches that give me the energy I need to get through my workout without causing a crash. When I work out early in the morning but don't want to on an empty stomach because we know mid-wan I'm going to be hangry, I grab one of their super easy on the stomach bars. Chocolate almond butter? Yes please. I may not be a games athlete yet, but UCAN helps me stay focused and energized during my workouts. It delivers steady release carbs for long-lasting energy without spiking blood sugar levels, the key to sustaining peak performance and focus and recording videos like these. Trusted by top CrossFit pros like Scott Panchik and Emily Rolfe, get your hands on these goodies and even save 20% on your first order with our code CHALKUP, link in the description. Now back to the episode.
no, no, they shouldn't, because you can't promise that money. The best example that I'm also now seeing applied at some other competitions, and I've been speaking to some upcoming competitions that are going to do a similar thing. In fact, they were asking me if I knew exactly how Rogue had done it, sort of when they did the
Mhm.
cutoff to increase the prize purse. Guarantee a prize purse you can manage, plus a percentage of ticket sales. And that way it's sort of like you're going to get at least this, but hey, if we sell out or if we sell half or whatever, your prize purse is going to increase. So you're not, but I mean, it's so difficult. Like we see venues struggling to sell tickets, for competition. So basing your prize purse, because that is again, as well, I think it depends on the size of the prize purse.
Sure.
Because if it's a relatively small one, it's maybe not the draw for the athletes. If it's a big one, then that is a draw. And if that's making me choose between two events running at the same weekend, but it's just a hypothetical fictional prize purse, that's a real problem, as we see, as we're seeing now.
Right.
I did think it was funny because after hearing that the majority of the athletes were up for this, I reached out to them and I didn't say I'd seen this new email. I actually just asked if they'd spoken, if they'd replied to the previous one, and some hadn't, some had. And then I just told them, okay, there's a video coming out later you might want to watch. And they were surprised, like could not believe it. It was sort of like, this is madness. And I think it raises a really interesting point, because basing it again on the ticket sales, and the ticket sales is one thing, but you've also got to have the volunteers, you've got to have the judges, you've got to have people that want to go to the competition. So even if across the board every podium athlete said, yes, I want my money back, let's do this, if nobody else is going to sign up because they've heard what happened last year, then it's not going to work. So
right.
Ultimately, I don't think it depends on the athletes. I think that's nice that they're included in the decision. Maybe I think it's nice. I also think it's I also think it might be, and this again, this is my opinion. Usually I don't give my opinions much. I'm very opinionated today. My opinion is this is why I was so surprised with the second email, because I honestly thought, to a degree, is this just a way to put it into the hands of the athletes? You say, look, we're proposing this solution. Athletes say no, it's not our fault. We had a solution and they didn't want to take it. And I honestly thought that's what this maybe was. So when there was this follow-up saying, oh, we're going to go ahead with it, that really caught me off guard, because I was like, oh, I was sure that this was just a kind of, here we go, this is kind of a solution, but we're not really going to pull the trigger on it. So I just I feel like it's an impossible task to pull off. That's my feeling. I think this year it was going to be an incredibly hard task to pull off anyway, and they didn't manage it. So I don't understand how they plan to do it next year when it's going to be even harder, 10 times harder than it was this year.
Well, I'm curious because we also saw that there's another competition that they're having. I think this one is still this calendar year.
Yes.
And this is the same event organizer?
Yeah,
correct?
it's I think if you scroll down to one of like there's not that many posts on it. I think one of the earliest posts, it does say, from the team that brings you the European Championships. It's probably on that one.
Oh, yep.
There you
Brought
go.
to you by the team behind the European Championship. A hybrid between functional fitness and classic obstacle course races. So do you think, based on the emails you've seen, the athletes you've spoken with the event organizer himself, do you think that this is another avenue that they're approaching to try to pay the athletes from this other competition?
No, I think this is
Okay.
I'm trying to think when
Separate but relevant.
It's separate, definitely relevant only in the fact that it seems strange that you're going to run another event when you owe so much to a previous event.
So it looks like this one will be happening May of 2023. So this coming spring.
Yeah, I'm trying to see when that was posted. I think it was in July 10th, I think.
17 weeks ago.
Yeah. So this was before kind of the drama we can say unfold
Sure.
of this. So it's unrelated, definitely. in relation to what's happened with this. So they're not going to be using that to pay back this. It's just, I don't know. If I'd signed up for that, I would be worried. And I've spoken to people who signed up for that, and they are a little bit worried. So
Sure. So I'm curious, as somebody who lives in the UK, the European Championship has been well known as a CrossFit competition in the UK. If right now, I think we can all agree that the reputation is certainly in jeopardy based on the actions, whether it was intentional, whether this is just happening because a lot of off-season competitions are dealing with this, but athletes aren't happy, volunteers aren't happy, the community is not happy. If this competition gets a bad rep and nobody shows up or it goes under, what does this mean for CrossFit in the UK? Does this have like a, a spiral effect of fit of CrossFit?
I don't think so. And I have to say it because I know someone who will watch this will call me out if I don't say it. They're not a licensed CrossFit event as well. So
Right,
I
right.
want to put that out there. And we have different opinions on on this because I'm someone who says, like, they're not a CrossFit licensed event, just as Whatappalooza wasn't a CrossFit event for many years until it became a sanctional. Like, it's CrossFit in all but name, basically. So it's it's the same movements, the same athletes are going to it. You've got people judging your reps, but technically, let's put it out there, not a licensed event. And that's also why when people are sort of saying, well, shouldn't CrossFit step in and shouldn't CrossFit do something? No, because it's just,
Right.
an event that's doing functional fitness. There we go. We'll use that term. There are some great events in the UK being held, a number of them licensed events that have, that are doing a fantastic job. And people know that. So it would be, while it's a shame to see it go and its name, it does have a name that is recognizable. People do know it. And, there are people that love the event. There are also people that it's almost like this was the catalyst for them to start saying what they really felt about the event, even in previous years. And they've maybe not been a fan and they did it once and wouldn't go back. So, this is a whole nother discourse, is that the event itself, people were not very happy this year. They haven't been happy in years past as well, but there was, if you obviously, because I was talking about it, I started seeing more people following me that had been at the event, and I was sort of looking at some of the posts they had put up and their reflection on the event, and that was quite telling as well. I don't think, I don't think we're in danger. We've got some great events. I know something like Strength and Depth Origins is, everyone's doing the qualifiers for that at the moment, and that's great. And obviously they've got a great reputation because they're linked to Strength and Depth, the semi-final and sanctional as well. Graft put on a number of licensed events for all over the UK, and people seem to be having a great time at those. So there are plenty of things for people to do in the UK. I'm not worried that this is kind of going to somehow taint the sport and to the point that people abandon CrossFit. But it is, it's not nice for anyone. It's not nice for Carl. It's not nice for the event. It's not nice for the athletes. It's just not a nice situation. And one that, and I think that's probably the problem of trying to go forward for another year, because this is a horrible situation. And the worst thing possible is that we get together again next year and start talking about another terrible situation. It's almost like someone's got to lose at this point, and you'd kind of rather see it happen now than just jump ahead another year and see not only those athletes are owed money, but a load more people are now owed money as well.
So where are we left at? Carl sent the last email saying that people looked like they were in favor. We're going to move forward. Do we know if there's going to be any more communication with the athletes?
So initially they talked about, I think, a monthly update. So I would assume, and in that email to the staff, they did say that there would be an update. They'd let them know how things progress. So there should definitely be some updates. Currently, as it stands, you can sign up for the online qualifiers for the event. You could sign up for those before, if I'm not wrong, I might be wrong saying this now, but I have a feeling you could already sign up for those before the finals even took place.
Okay.
Probably because that's a revenue stream that they could use
For sure.
last year when they were struggling. So you can sign up now. And that is my concern as well, is that people are signing up because they, not everyone is watching these videos. Not everyone is following this stuff on Instagram, and they see, oh, European Championship sounds like a fun event. I know my friend did their first, competition there a few years ago. I'm going to do that competition, and people are signing up. And I just worry that people sign up and then it falls apart, and that money's gone as well. So, but as it stands at the moment, I guess technically it's going ahead in the sense that there's, you go on Competition Corner, you can sign up for the event. Whether or not it goes ahead, time will tell.
Stay tuned. Jason will make another video and we'll be anxiously waiting for it. Jason, what would you say your bottom line is with everything that all the information that we have thus far with the European Championship?
Oh, it's really tough.
It's hard to wrap it all with a nice little bow.
So my bottom line is, I think it was all well-intentioned, but poorly executed. They found themselves in a position where, again, it seems like they are trying to do something, but it seems like a plan that it's very easy to identify the flaws. Whether or not the athletes want to go ahead, I don't think is the relevant issue. I think 100% of the athletes could want to go ahead and it would still not succeed because of the bad press that is now surrounding it and the apprehension people would have to sign up for another year for a prize purse that it seems all but fictional. Somewhere in this chain of events, someone is going to lose money, but it's sort of going to depend on what happens next to see who, unfortunately, that is.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for sitting down with us and bringing us up to speed on some of these holes that might have still been out there, really just educating the public, especially those people who might be looking to compete in this competition in the future. We're going to link all of your YouTube videos. So if people want to watch those, you'll be able to see that in our description. And otherwise, Jason, we'll see you on the internet. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you.